on the village's website and listing it on the village's Facebook page. So we have a quorum and we're going to get underway. The first part of our work session this evening is a presentation from the Bears Group regarding their proposal to do a study of our DPW. We've had a couple of proposals before, and we're looking forward to this presentation this evening as well.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
That was a little bit of feedback. Is that better?
Sounds fine.
Okay. That was a strange one. I'm going to try to share my screen and see if it works. Can you all see the PowerPoint presentation?
It's coming up. Yes.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Well, first off, thank you all for inviting us into not only the village of Sleepy Hollow, but your homes and offices this evening. It's good to see everybody. As Anthony mentioned earlier before we got on, we worked with you last, I believe, in 2011, when we reviewed the organization and management and came up with a potential consolidation plan with Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow, and the school district. So I'm glad that, A, I'm still ticking. That's good. B, I'm glad to come back and have the opportunity to talk to you about other departments in the village. I'm trying to... There we go. So our project team that we want to introduce you to is myself. I'm the vice president of the Burge Group, and Kathleen Rooney. She's a former Schenectady County manager. Spent 13 years reorganizing, developing, managing the county right next door to us in Albany County. Unfortunately, Kathleen had a prior commitment this evening on a board meeting for finance, so she can't be with us. But if you have follow-up questions specific to her, I can make her available at your next board meeting, I believe is in January. But as an introduction to most of you, LaBerge Group is a municipal consulting firm. We were born back about 1964. We're about 55 years old now. And about a decade, 12, 13 years ago, we began a subspecialty breaking off of our engineering and planning in government operations and efficiency. We saw a huge need statewide for municipalities that were looking to optimize their service delivery, reduce their costs, and become more efficient in either sharing services or internally within their own departments. And because we're already working with them on engineering issues and planning issues, and many of our staff members came from a government background, we started branching into the government operations and government efficiency part of the process. It's rare in New York State to have that service in a engineering firm, but we found that it shouldn't be rare. It should actually be part of everybody's services. Since we were touching many different areas in our towns and villages, it became a natural outgrowth. And since that time, we've become one of the leaders in New York State in government operations and efficiency. We have a former village board member and town board member, county manager, and myself working with communities as far north as Plattsburgh and then down to Rockland and Westchester counties. We just completed some work over in Dutchess County with the first ever consolidation vote in the village and town of Paulding. For reorganizing their government. So we're ready and raring to go and looking forward to the opportunity here. So our understanding, we spoke to Anthony about a week and a half ago. We were happy to have gotten the initial invite to come talk to you all. And we understood that you have an opportunity here, unprecedented. You have an opportunity on the edge on Hudson for a 30% increase in your population with probably the most transformative development in Westchester County in the Hudson Valley. It was something we spoke about a decade ago with the former GM site, and now you're moving forward with it. I read that the development's going well. The first 70 homes or units are already moving forward, and new pieces are coming on board as soon as the construction season allows. It's pretty exciting. I watched your video. If anyone hasn't seen it, it is absolutely amazing what's going to happen. But that transformation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not just new residences, a new retail space, a new park space, a new waterfront. It's an impact on arguably the most visible division or service that a village has. Often people believe the largest budgeted item in a community is its police and public safety, and it is. But the most visible and invisible, and I use both words purposely, agency or division in a community is its DPW. It's invisible because not a lot of people worry about it as long as they turn on the water and water comes out and flush and it goes away. They start worrying about it when they hit potholes. But for the most part, if the roads are paved in the summer and they're cleared in the winter and the playgrounds are in good condition, DPW is invisible. Yet you touch and feel DPW every single day on sanitation, on water, on sewer, on parks, on sidewalks. It is arguably the most important part of what a village provides to its residents. So in talking to Anthony, we understand that you're looking at ways to plan, review, assess, and optimize your public works organization. To see, we'll take a look at what we're doing today, where we want to be tomorrow, what steps we have to do to address the increase in needs that's going to affect us from Edge on Hudson, look at best practices and how they can be brought into our management, organization, and staffing, make sure that we're right-sized. Are we too heavy? Are we too light? Should we be doing more with staff? Should we be cross-training staff differently? Do we have the right mix of our staff? Look at how we can increase our efficiencies within our DPW, but also in the services that we provide our taxpayers, our investors. And finally, to continue to identify promising sustainability procedures. What can we do either in the infrastructure practices that we build with bioswales or pervious pavements or our rain gardens, or what can we do with our LED lighting, or even when we build a new DPW garage, what green infrastructure can we put in that garage to reduce the costs for the next generation? Because when you build that new garage, you're looking at a 50-year lifespan or more. Nobody wants to go back in 10 years and fix it again. So you want to look at your needs, whether it's radiant heat, whether it's your movable lifts, how many what kind of heat space do we need? What kind of cold storage do we need? How do I optimize that location? And how do I bridge the gap between what my organizational needs are and my facility needs through space programming? So we kind of pull that all together into an organization management and space planning proposal. I believe I emailed it out on Friday. I'm not sure if Anthony was able to get that out to everybody. And in the absence of a written scope of services, it's our attempt to reframe what we heard and provide one potential scope. It's by no means what we believe to be the final scope, because that final scope has to be developed in concert with you as to what you believe is most important or what you want changed or unfocused. But when we look at organization and management, we sort of break into three pillars: the leadership and strategic planning, organization and management, and operations and service delivery. We look at under leadership and strategic planning, your asset management, your workflow, staff planning, your equipment and materials. We look at how it works interdepartmentally with other agencies in the village and the surrounding villages in the county. We look at how you plan your projects, both the capital planning side of it, but also the day-to-day workflow. Are you reactive or proactive? Are you planning out 6 months, 1 year, 3 years down the road? Are you looking at other communities to see when they're doing their projects and piggybacking, if you may? We look at fiscal planning. And again, I go back to your staff and asset management planning. That's all part of the leadership and strategic planning. But what's not listed there in staffing is succession planning. Our staff are getting older. And my father-in-law was a highway superintendent for 30 years. And staff come and go. It's hard to find good staff, not just good staff. It's hard to find trained staff in the services that you're providing because technologies change annually. And are we continuing to get the best and brightest to work in our departments? How can I recruit them? How can we train them? How can we keep them in our village for their 20 or 25 years as they go through their process? On organization and management, we look at the chain of command process. Is it the right workflow within your current org chart? How are you communicating up, down, and sideways? Your resources and data, how is that tracked? Often we find when working with DPW departments that A, every DPW department has the best men, best equipment, and best roads. And B, they get the job done is always what a DPW superintendent will tell us. However, we need to understand how they get that work done. What are you doing to track? What are you doing for the data analysis to track against your weekly goals? Where's that time? I mean, you're working with your staff for 35 or 40-hour work shifts, depending on your municipality. How are you utilizing that time? Often we find that DPW departments don't have a very good workflow data system, a tracking system to understand how they're doing either their call outs, their patching, when they leave the workshop, where they're going, how they're coming back. We use the organizational and management discussions to determine whether you have one-man plow, two-man plow routes, or on sanitation, where to put the one-armed bandit, so to speak, or two men on a truck. Incidentally, in Ulster County, we got them a grant for automatic vehicle locators, AVLs, and they realized real quickly that two-man plows was very unproductive for them because two-man plows require 2 coffee breaks, 2 smoke breaks, and 2 pee breaks every shift. So one-man plow was much more efficient for them, and they used the AVLs for routing, and they also used them to keep the plow down in intersections in those segments of the county that cross municipal boundaries, and they just build it back to the municipality. So those little parts of technology became best practice for Ulster County. But in our organization and management, we also identify the best practices as defined by the APWA. I know you guys know what that is, the American Public Works Association. They've come out with their 10th edition of their manual on their best practices, and you'll be gauged against those practices and set up, if you do decide someday to be an accredited DPW, you can use their assessment tools to get there. But in our organization and management, we finalize with defined work activities and ensure that the work activities are aligned with the job descriptions and the staffing that you currently have or that you need in the future. And then under the operations and service delivery, there's a host of areas we look at, from resources to workflow. We look at your work order system, technology you have today versus other new technology that may be able to become more effective and efficient in the workplace. But when we talk about organization in municipalities, we talk about operations and efficiency, we're really talking about reassess, realign, and redeploy. You know, as a company, we have done a host of shared service or consolidation management, dissolution and consolidation studies, which at the base root are really organizational assessments of communities or departments. And when I tell all communities that we work with, and when we begin the process, we like to start with the proverbial whiteboard. All of the equipment, all the resources, all the people, all the vehicles and staff get put on that whiteboard. And we say, is this the government of tomorrow? How does it look and compare to the government of today? So we reassess, and then we realign our resources, and then we redeploy them back into the community, hopefully in a more effective and efficient manner. And what that goes through is the project initiation, in this case to your public works profile, all the data collection, all the inputs into our models and systems. We then look at realigning the process. Our report looks at the strategic assessment, your performance improvement plans, your recommendations, and work with you to prioritize that implementation plan to the quick hit first 100 days, short-term 1 year, long-term 3 to 5 years. And then we look at how do we redeploy? What specific actions can you do to move your agency, organization, or in this case, DPW forward? And that's the process coming from reassessment to redeployment. It's very strategic in the process. And it's I hate to use my father's words, but it's pretty neat, to be honest. But I say that, I saw him last night using Zoom. He used the word neat 3 times in about 5 minutes. So I think it's just ingrained in my mind right now. He's probably going to go now online tomorrow and watch this video to see if I said that. But to dial in a little bit to our scope of services that we provided, going along those 3 categories of reassess, realign, and redeploy. Those first 2 areas are the data collection. We have a very iterative stakeholder questionnaire, and that stakeholders is not just management. It is a combination of all the workforce at DPW, the management at DPW, and you, the village board and village administration. You guys work hand in hand. There are certain policies that you want to see put forth village-wide, specifically in sustainable development, that have to get carried out in this case, the Department of Public Works. So we want to make sure you're all involved in this process and not simply a handoff to the consultant. We're a team, we're a partnership, and we have to have that stakeholder questionnaire, kickoff, and committee meetings are all part of our data collection. In our Public Works profile, it's easy to do the data numbers, but I want to really work on the interviews, the responses, the round tables with our leadership, with our unions, with our workforce. Often, or more often than not, the greatest opportunity for change and organizational realignment comes from the workforce, not just the leadership. Often we find that leadership may have some ideas, but there's sometimes a disconnect in management and managers and doers. And there has to be a realignment of that joint vision, joint mission, and joint goals that gets carried through, not top to bottom, but bottom to top. So those interviews around tables allow us to summarize your current situation. And then we use that SWOT workshop, much like many planning projects, with your agency. But it's more than just simply understanding what the department does, what the village administration wants. When we worked in Hastings and Dobbs, Hastings had a user survey. They actually wanted to know what the public felt about the services they were getting. So what is the third eye, so to speak? You have one view from the administration, the workforce may have a view, but you may want to potentially have an easy survey where the public can provide some input as to how do they see you doing your job. Sometimes it's what you thought, and sometimes you have some unique information that you can address, either through PR and marketing or through management and actual deployment. Then we go into the second phase, which is our blue phase, our realignment. We look at the operations, we look at your best practices, we look at your management practices, your assets. We look at your fiscal situation as to what you're budgeting today and what you may need to budget over the increase with the increase of the population. And just because you have more people doesn't always mean you have more work. Hopefully, the infrastructure in the ground is going to be great when they turn it over to you, and all the underground work will be solid. Well, you still have the roads to clear, to pave, to do summer maintenance on, to work on the parks and recreation, because from what I've seen, that area is going to be a huge magnet to Sleepy Hollow and the county. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity to really present to the public a view that you want it to look like, and that's going to require your maintenance folks to have the horticulture up to speed, the landscaping up to speed, the parks and recreation up to speed. So people sometimes say, just because I have 30% more population doesn't mean I have 30% more roads. You still have additional issues that have to be looked at and integrated into your work plan as you're planning this out for the next 20 years. From there, we go into the risk assessment. We look at your practices, we look at your insurances, we look at your equipment. We have an asset inventory for your equipment. We start developing a capital improvement plan and helping you as a village and you as a department plan out those improvements and the cost for those improvements so they can be budgeted for or bonded for as part of the fiscal outlook for your community. You know, often communities are very good to their DPWs, and when they have the ability to get that extra $250,000 truck, they do it every 5 years. But you don't want to be looking at a one-stop shop every November or April when you do your budget and just grabbing one piece. You kind of want to look at a coordinated plan for 5, 10, or 15 years and understand where your bonds are ending for previous purchases and how those can roll over to new purchases. And we did a capital improvement plan with the town of Plattsburgh, almost as far north from you as you can get before Canada. And they had $20 million of bonds coming due. And the supervisor came and said, you know, Ben, I want to take the politics out of water and sewer. I want to do a capital improvement plan and take the money that we've already been spending and budgeted and roll that over. And he had a huge public engagement process and brought the public and the news, which is always scary. And he brought the news to his water treatment plant, to his storage tanks, and showed them the conditions that they're in right now, and said that we have the opportunity at no additional cost to my taxpayers to roll over their payment and plan for the next 20 years. So that same concept can be looked at in the fiscal part of what's happening in the village. I have no idea today where you are with those bonds, but that's part of our review is what can be rolled over and reinvested into new technologies or different equipment as you grow. Now, there are a couple of cities in our country that are now looking at converting DPW and police cars to hybrids. I see the chiefs here. It's not often that police and chiefs look at any kind of hybrid vehicle, but Denver, a few others are looking at that because they're able to get good use on small villages of that and save thousands of dollars a year in fuel. But DPW has always been that holy grail. It kills a very heavy use equipment. But when you look at your equipment, there may be less use, F-150, so to speak, that's going to be changing. You may have small cabin equipment. You may have other pieces that can go hybrid of some sort you may want to start including. And the new folks that are moving into Edge on Hudson may have different needs for their vehicles. So this all should be looked at and included in your overall plan. The last part of that phase in realignment is really looking at the prioritization. You can easily come up with 40 pages worth of recommendations, which can be mind-boggling, but really prioritizing that down to a matrix of short-term, midterm, and long-term goals that's still left fluid based upon grants and financing is part of what we do. And then in the deployment phase, we're a little different than many other government operation firms that we have, the engineers and the municipal architects. So what they're going to do is work with us and the department to figure out your space programming needs, help you identify more of what you need in that new facility. My understanding is the local development corporation's already reviewed it a little bit, but doesn't have a hard concept or a hard cost estimate to work off of. So we added that to ours because what good is having a piece of property that you can develop and a great plan of what you want to do and not have an idea of where to put them and how to build it. So we included our municipal architects and engineers to look at the space program based upon the current needs and future needs to give you what I call a sample or a concept floating plan that can go elsewhere. We're not going to design it to your site yet. We're just going to give you a concept plan so you can begin to think about the flow, the access, and the potential cost. We'll talk more about that later, but that's really our scope of services. But part of the organizational change as we see it is really building that consensus. It's not simply the village board, the DPW superintendent saying, this is what we're going to do because I said so. It's working with the staff and the stakeholders, fleshing out a new vision, addressing some of the concerns and misconceptions that are often found in these kind of plans, and explaining to all the individuals and groups that work for you what the benefit is. What's the benefit to organizational change and we call service optimization and getting that buy-in? And we have to outline the process to the workforce. We have to get their input as well and discover any kind of concerns or objections they may have and really lay that groundwork for consensus and support for a new vision, because this new optimized department is going to be serving you for 20 or 30 more years. A whole new generation of workers are going to come into this. Some will age out over time through attrition. Some new workforce will come in. You have the opportunity to change, build upon, or grow, whichever way your situation is, the positive parts of your department, and really continue that in the new environment. But the part of our process also is the asset and needs assessment. Again, we may be wrong in how we understand the discussion with Anthony, but part of it is understand your sites and building, look at your equipment, both the stationary equipment and the mobile equipment, and look at what you're doing for materials and supplies. Getting a full list and inventory of the function, age, frequency of use. And part of that is to make sure you have the right mix of equipment. If there's excess equipment that you can sell off or change or even share, look at that. If there's equipment that you need, that you only need intermittently, and you may have an opportunity to borrow or share or have a shared service with other villages of the county, you can do that. If there's an opportunity that has not yet been explored that comes through our discussions for shared services, we would work with you to identify that opportunity to the county as they have their annual shared service plan that has to go to Albany every year. And if you do that shared service in that year, you get that back as a grant. So through this process, if you happen to see something, we always let our clients know, hey, contact the county on that, get it in the plan for next year, you get some money back on it. But it's not, while shared service is not the focal point of this study, as we understand it, we always look for those opportunities because there's a lot of money in a non-COVID year for grants to implement some of those. So that's always on the side of our consciousness, so to speak. But I hit before earlier that we have that division that we wanted to add to this project to look at the space program, concept plans, and a probable opinion of cost. It's a joke in our office when you take the acronym POOP and you put it on paper, it's kind of funny. But it's the probable opinion of cost as you develop your outline of the plan. Whether it's the new salt shed, sand mix, new highway garage, we look at all these pieces and we take into account some of the green infrastructure that you may want to put in place. The space program is understanding how your organization is going to be set up, the staffing they have in place, what kind of, I said, heated space, what kind of cold storage space. Are you looking for a Taj Mahal? Are you looking for a budget? We take all this into account to figure out how to maximize your budget, how to maximize your space planning, and give you that layout. So you actually have, when you walk away from this, the organizational plan, and the facility concept plan that you can use going forward. I use this little balancing uh, image because there is a big difference between a wish and a need. And we have to understand what the overall wishes are, but what your budget is to figure out how the needs fall into place. Many DPW superintendents want a drive-through. It's because it's cleaner, it's easier for them, it's safer for them, but it's almost double the price. When I say a drive-through, I'm talking a center hall drive-through with the wings that come out, everything being indoors, where the vast majority of communities end up looking something like these images where you have double stacked bays. So we look at the wish versus the budget and realities. And then we give you the preliminary opinion of cost, and you can use that and identify different opportunities for funding as you go forward. And then finally, as part of our team, we also have our grant writers. So we have one more unique part of our organization is that we have secured over $245 million of funding for our clients since 2000. And we do that because funding isn't an add-on, it's in our DNA as a firm. Every plan, be it an engineering analysis, an organizational analysis, a comprehensive plan, always gets looked at through the eyes of how do I fund it? Because nobody has that a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow to fund their projects. So whenever we develop the plan, our grant writers take a read through to see if there are buzzwords they can put in that plan that you can use or your grant writers can use to access green infrastructure dollars or NYSERDA dollars or shared service dollars. But they're always looking for that for project implementation. That's just part of our process here. It's not simply developing the organizational management plan, but it's making sure that you have the needs in there, the words in there, the actions in there that you can use to access some of those funds. And that's led to, again, $245 million in funding since 2000, $100 million just in the last 5 years. So it's been a very successful practice, but it's not just for us. I understand you had, I believe you still have, a very successful grant writer as a consultant for you all down in Sleepy Hollow. So she can use this, if she's still there, she can use this plan to access some grants next year. And I'm sorry, Mayor, I don't happen to remember the consultant's name, but
It's okay.
Okay. It was, she had like a British accent.
Excuse me?
I think she had a British or English accent.
South African.
Yeah, you're off by several thousand miles, but
But so she can use the plan to access dollars going forward. So I think, Anthony, you had asked for a few different case studies to discuss some of the projects that we worked on. So again, I want you to understand, we do take pride in the work that we do, but we really look at that redeployment. You know, it's not just designing that the engineers look at, but as the government folks, those that work in government, understand government, we look at that reassess, realign, and redeploy to help you identify that new model for service and delivery. And within that, we have 4 case studies I believe I'm sharing tonight. First is the one we just completed about 6 months ago. And it's the village and town of Lake George. They had an unprecedented opportunity where you had no unions, and the village DPW and the town DPW superintendents were retiring. So they wanted to look at how can we do a department consolidation and develop a new management structure, staffing that can combine us both. Now, their DPWs were less than a mile apart. The village is very small, but grows and swells due to tourism, even this year in COVID. So they want to look at different operations. They looked at the asset management. We did a fleet management analysis for them. We recommended different facility changes to co-locate. And we even included the school district because the school district needed a new motor pool garage. They had to let the air out of their buses every day to get the buses into the building. It was just too short. And they joked that if they did not break 15 rooftop vents a year, they were doing something wrong. They just couldn't get them in. So they included the motor pool, and they had, incidentally, the Ford mechanic, the specialist Ford mechanic, they shared with the village and town when they needed that. We looked at the work functions of each of the town and the village divisions and found the village was unique and they kept in their DPW, for lack of a better term, a tourism division, one that worked on the garbage on Main Street, the parking on Main Street, the lighting on Main Street. They set up and take down for special events, the signage, which is unique to many villages don't have a special events division. They did. They had the water and sanitation with a town in it, but we look at staff specialization and cross training, how we can go ahead and bring everyone under one roof. And then we had to change that vision to one of co-location. And then we had to change that because while everyone retired, the village and town didn't wait to replace, so they lost the opportunity to realign and redeploy. But that was, that was the most recent project. A few years back, we worked next door in Dobbs and Hastings. They wanted to look at a consolidation model, how that would look. And there again, we did an organizational administrative review, provided opportunities for a new structure and efficiency. We looked at a capital plan improvement. We looked at how can we standardize over time their fleet and bring them all under one roof. The village Dobbs Ferry, I believe, had that master mechanic that was doing, an electrician that was doing a lot of the electrical work for the police and for them. We looked at the services that were provided in Hastings, and Hastings had the opportunity where their DPW garage was about to fall into the water, so to speak, or fall into the train tracks where it's located. They didn't move forward on that either. They had a unique situation where their DPW, every member or almost every member, if my memory is right, was also a firefighter. And they felt that if they actually co-located in Dobbs, it would have put public safety at risk. So they didn't move forward on that, but they did have great opportunities in their review of the organization and best practices. Chemung County, this was one of the larger studies we did. We spoke with 14 towns, 2 villages, and a city. And this plan won the Upstate Planners Association award that year for best practice. And theirs was really unique in that they came up with a 3-pronged approach to their management structure because they realized there were certain areas of the county that made sense to coordinate more. So they created a consolidated urban highway services area around the city of Elmira. And they decided they were going to share management with the county, thereby giving and offering the towns and villages in the city that worked in that urban highway services area access to their engineers, their seeker, their permitting folks, their training, and they were allowed to have one manager that had access to all these pods of staff to redeploy on emergency situations. And that's where we learned real quick that A, people love their DPW. B, they take ownership in the seal on the truck of their DPW. But C, in an emergency, they don't really care. They want a DPW truck there. So if you're in Big Flats and Elmira's there helping you in a flooding, they're grateful. So that changed a lot of the viewpoints from the superintendents and the highway commissioners that were solely, I don't want to call it myopic, but they were very driven to their own community at first to realize that they can actually work together, optimize their service delivery across boundaries that are just on the map and provide a better service to all their residents. So in there, they looked at how can we standardize our equipment and reduce our storage components. Everybody likes their Ford, their Chevy, or their GMC. And it's the same concept of highway superintendents with the materials or the equipment they have. But it became a situation where you have really large tires and large pieces of equipment for repair that are being stored in a lot of locations where it was ineffective, inefficient, and costly. That by working together through standardization of their equipment, be able to reduce some of the waste and become more effective and efficient in their purchasing. But one of the things that came up early in their process was they never had in any division or department a task tracking or job reporting. The first thing you ask is, what do you do in the summer? And they have a whole host of things they're doing from 7 a.m. or sunlight to sundown, 4 days a week with reduced on Friday. So you say, what are you doing in the winter? And they talk about, well, winter maintenance, obviously, sand and salt and plowing. And then they talked about all the repair work they did. But they didn't really have a good way of tracking the hours and time spent on each task to understand that they're actually optimizing every day, every hour of their staffing. Often people run for office and they say, I want to run my government like a business. So through these processes, we're able to actually run or look at running DPWs as a business, looking at jobs, looking at tasks, looking at equipment and resources, and figuring out, are we getting our best bang for our buck, or are we working at the optimal level of our service delivery paradigm? And that's kind of how we go through these. And the final one I want to show you is the Village and Town Deposit and Sanford. They also looked at consolidating to one management structure. They had the town and the village DPW on the same property. Both were in various levels of decay. One had maybe 5 years left, and one had maybe 10 years left. So they wanted to look at all the same functions we're talking about here: fleet, facilities, staffing, best practices, the services. Um, and they looked at consolidating into one division. We gave them a new management structure and staffing, how you can standardize the work functions and job classifications. Then it became obvious through the financial analysis that it was cost prohibitive. And I forget today which one was a union and which one wasn't. But because of the difference between the union and non-union wages and benefits, it was cost prohibitive to combine. So they decided to co-locate, was their recommendation. Still have the de facto joint services and joint management, but kept it separate because of union issues. And although in the end, it comes down to service optimization, and we work with a wide variety of different ways to get that done. And then finally, I want to bring up some of the garage and facility experience that we had. Just I mentioned earlier about a municipal architect will be working with you all to look at the space programming, but we do this all the time. We just finished a town highway garage and salt shed in town of Highland. They received 3 different grants to do that. One was because their highway garage was being flooded. 2 was because of the energy efficiency and climate smart initiatives. We also finished one in Roxbury, town of Schuyler, and we just started a project in town of Hector over by Watkins Glen, where they're going to combine, they're going to build a new highway garage, tear down the old highway garage, tear down their recycling center, build a new recycling center, and add on to their town hall. So that's a multifaceted process. But within that, it's still going to be the process of realigning their delivery in the highway department and seeing, does this process still work prior to developing a new highway garage? And it goes back to the end to the 3 R's: the reassess, the realign, and the redeploy. That to us is how we approach our organizational management studies and our assessments. And because we didn't have a scope, we laid this out, but we're open to any interpretation you all have as to how you want to move forward to address the increased needs at Edge on Hudson, the change you have in your department, the technological opportunities you want to bring in, the green infrastructure you want to bring in, and the new facility. So with that, I'll stop sharing the screen and open up to any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you, members of the board. Questions?
I'll start by saying that was an excellent presentation and very much on point. Really appreciate that. You did your homework and it was impressive. So can you give us a chance to understand the workflow and how much time you believe you would need to do the study that we're looking for, and also how much would you be doing on a remote basis, and how much would you be actually here and present with our team and our facilities?
All right, I think we estimated about 330 to 350 hours in the project. As far as timeline, you're entering the unpredictable season. Normally it's a 3-month to a 4-month process. Because of winter, it's 5 to 6. It all depends on your DPW availability. I've found if you have a hard winter and maybe a little bit, you may not be able to get information back readily from your staff or from your DPW. So we put in our proposal 5 to 6 months. Internally, we would like to be having a good draft to you in 3 months. As far as our on-site, that depends on COVID right now. And in a traditional model, we do all of our interviews, all of our roundtables on-site. It's easier for the department heads. It's easier for the staff. We either do it at breakfast or at lunch. Traditionally, pizza lunches work fantastic with DPWs. Just say, I've had the best response from people coming in to talk to us during that. Given COVID, we can still order the pizza, but they may have to be doing it remote at first. Hopefully, we can, as things open up, we'll be down there more. We have to be on site to do the site analysis and the facility review and looking at your equipment. That's going to be dependent upon how your DPW administration feels and what the COVID restrictions are. But so what we would do, what we would start with is our data collection inventory. So before we even had our first meeting, we put together a set of intake forms, get that out to your steering committee and then out to the staff that we'd be working with. Get that information in so the first meeting is a productive work session. We don't like meetings where we just talk and everyone walks away. We kind of think the best use is that partnership and that work session process. So if we have information up front and do our homework, we can then best utilize the time of the administration, the village board, the steering committee, and the staff on site. As far as on-site meetings, that's also going to depend upon COVID and where we are in that process. If we can have 10 people in a room or more. Right now, we're doing a lot this way. And we can also use breakout sessions. 2 months ago, when we worked in Pauling and interviewed all their staff, it was remote this way because everything was locked down. There's no access to their town hall. So it was beneficial for the staff members because they had more opportunities to go longer into the night, so to speak. Like we're talking right now, a lot of the department heads are open to meeting at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. and so they can work around their work-life schedule with their kids or whatever they have to do with school. So we do some of this. We'll be down as often as we're able to with the COVID regulations.
Thank you.
How you doing, Ben? I'm Sam. Nice to meet you.
Sorry, I couldn't see anyone talking. I just heard it. Now I see it.
Yeah. So I thought that was a really neat presentation you made. Thank you very much. I wanted to just ask, you mentioned that you did some work for our village like 10, 11 years ago. And
Yes, sir.
could you just give us like some background? Because I wasn't a trustee back then. And I'd just like to know a little bit about what you did.
Sure, and I can share you guys another copy of it digitally. We did it was called the Tri-Agency Recreation Shared Service Study. It was the Village of Tarrytown, the Village of Sleepy Hollow, and the school district. And you were looking at different ways to optimize the management and the service delivery of your parks and your recreation services, whether it was originally going to be potentially shared between the two villages, where one may have the administrative role, one may have the facility role or the staffing role. It turned into an opportunity that the school district actually provided where they can, because they overlap both, provide an opportunity to manage it all because they had part-time AD, athletic director, and part-time facility staff, and they offered, and it was part of the process that they can run it. It didn't work out that way in the end, but that's how it became. But one of the processes that we learned early on in that project, I think it was the mayor of Tarrytown that said this, Drew Fixel, I think he's still mayor down there, where he said, it's not always about the cost savings, it's about the service efficiency. If I can get better services to my residents, I want to see how to do that. So in that plan, we came up with a management structure, staffing, a workforce that can provide specialized services as opposed to 4 hats on a person. Each one can have a specialized service, education, and training. For example, was horticulture was one of them. Was going to be a groundskeeper for the village that was going to be run through the school district, but to provide the groundskeeping for all the village of Sleepy Hollow and Tarrytown's parks and recreation facilities. I spoke to Anthony a little bit about that, I think about a week ago, to see where you are with that. I think the plan the implementation fell apart when the school district administration changed. And some of the issues in Tarrytown and Sleepy, now you each have your own recreation staff and field staff. Anthony, did I get that right?
Yeah, close. There's a little more back channel stuff that happened as well. And I'll fill you in, Sam.
Okay. Well, thank you. I like your approach. I like the fact that, you approach this as a partnership and assessment of what's needed and then, jointly figure out potential solutions. So I do like your approach a lot.
Well, thank you, Sam. And nice to meet you.
Same here.
By the way, Mayor Fixell in Tarrytown retired early just several weeks ago.
Oh,
Said, I got all this other stuff going on, and I don't need this headache anymore.
well,
I'm very much paraphrasing. He was much more eloquent than that.
wow. So now I'm dating myself.
Not by much. It's only a few weeks. So,
Well, and Sam, I've been working here in the private sector with communities since 1999, and before that, I worked in the public sector at the state level and county level. So I've been around a while. But the last time Ken saw me, I didn't really have a gray beard.
I was, yeah, thinking about the COVID. All these things happened that
Yes.
people added things.
Well, I felt that I'd run out of razors, so I should conserve a little bit.
And we both stopped dyeing our hair like so many other people, and it's the other questions from members of the board.
Yeah, I have a
Oh,
question.
good.
How you doing, Ben? It's John Levy here.
Good.
I was impressed by your PowerPoint. I had a chance to look it over earlier today. I like the old photos and the actual photos of Sleepy Hollow. So you did your homework and it was impressive presentation. I just have a couple of questions. As far as projects like these, what do you and your clients identify as the biggest issues and how you overcame them in the past? You know, just an example or two of that. And also, how do you keep the stakeholders engaged throughout the whole process? So that's actually two questions.
Well, they're combined a little bit because one of the biggest challenges are the stakeholders and getting them to buy into the process that we're not trying to push them out of a job.
Okay.
You know, we're the big bad people. It's like we're the auditors. If you were the big six firm, and now maybe it's now big four firms, they came into your business as the auditors. You were scared for your job. You were scared for that pink slip at the end of the day. So when you got called into the office, it was, uh-oh, they're going to fire me, as opposed to asking my opinion. And if they ask my opinion, am I giving the right opinion? And if I give the right opinion, is it truly right, or is it pushing somebody else out? So the biggest stumbling block is also the biggest opportunity with the stakeholders. It's pulling everyone together, realizing that we're not here to cut anybody out. We're not here to fire anybody. We're not coming in as the slayer. We're coming in to assist you all figure out the better way, if there is a better way, of doing your job. I mean, we don't go in saying that you're not doing a good job today. For all we know, you may already be providing the best service, the most optimized delivery profile possible. So we give the stakeholders the opportunity to really praise what they're doing, understand what they're doing on a daily level, and keeping stakeholders involved. Well, I don't know how often you ask your foreman or your MEOs or your laborers how they like their job or what they're doing in their job or what they think they can do better or have opportunities. Almost everybody I know is afraid to tell their boss how to do something different, but at home talks to their friends, their neighbors, their family members about what they think that they can do better. So our job is to get that from them into our data collection. And to keep them engaged, it starts with getting them to have ownership of the process. It's really to understand and get them to understand that this process that helps set them forward is to identify what they need equipment-wise, what they need facility-wise, what they need leadership-wise to be the best they can be in providing the services they want. Because, I mean, I've done this or spoken to over 100 different DPW departments, and not one person will say that I'm not proud of the work I do. DPW staff are very proud of what they do. They leave a legacy. They see the roads that they pave. Their neighbors see and also will call them if there's a pothole, and they're able to be the first responders, if you may, in the snow. Because if it's not without them, kids don't get to school. Let's think about this. And I know Westchester is getting hit soon. I grew up on Long Island. I seem to remember so much more snow back in the than they get now. But all throughout the state, we had a lot more snow. And to get kids to school, the superintendent gets up at 3 a.m. and the DPW superintendent or highway supervisor gets up at 3 a.m., gets that report, and decides whether or not he can clear the roads fast enough for the school buses to get out. And they take pride in that. And unfortunately, with Facebook and social media, it gives people the opportunity to hide out on fake names and badmouth them. But they take pride in the work they do. They take pride in their equipment. they take pride that they keep a truck going 20 years when it should only be 10 years. So when you ask them what they do in the winter and they say, I'm sandblasting, painting, repairing, and welding, they're taking pride in that. So going back to how you keep stakeholders involved is you find out what makes them happy, what they're proud of and what they do. Get their ideas and truly listen to them to come in. So the biggest challenge we have is getting them involved. It's also overcoming the stigma that we're going to change everything they do and what they're doing is wrong.
Mhm.
And it's not always wrong. Everybody in DPW is wearing 3 or 4 hats, maximizing their opportunities during the day, and they're the MacGyvers. If you really want to see how you keep a municipality going, you look at their DPW. And they take pride in how they kept that machine going longer than it should. And you overcome that together and you work with them to identify that capital improvement plan over the next 5 and 10 years to standardize and optimize their equipment and their rolling stock.
I appreciate that answer, and I appreciate your sensitivity and your compassion towards our great employees. Our DPW staff do a wonderful job,
I
and
really do.
the reason why you're speaking tonight is because we're moving our DPW, and this is an opportunity for us to look at the whole picture. You know,
Yep.
It's not because we have horrible problems with our DPW. So to
No,
be
but
clear on that.
if you're going to move into a new facility, this is the perfect opportunity to figure out what we're doing today, what we need to be doing tomorrow, and how I actively plan for that. It's
Mhm.
good village management to plan for the future and not be reactive.
Appreciate that.
Sandra, you had a question?
I did. Thank you. Thank you. And I too wanted to just share my sentiments on the presentation. Very well thought out, like the thought process, and even the answers to some of the questions, I think just further affirm your style and how you apply it. And I appreciate that. What I also heard is that the sensitivity came out in the presentation with the training to the recruitment. I put down succession planning because they do take pride and they want to see where that was going to take them. So thank you for that. I think it's also critically important, which is what I heard with the providing the why. I think that's how people open up as well. My question was kind of in concert with more of the budget.
Mhm.
I know you said about 350 hours. So what's your composite rate so we can get an understanding of what that would be from a budget? I know it's not holding anything to it, but just getting a scope on that.
In our proposal, we gave the budget of 49.7.
Okay, it was a very comprehensive one, and I wanted to make sure I understood that. Okay, so it's about 46,000.
Yeah, it's 49.7. It was 45,000 for the plan, and then we added 4,500 for the concept planning and space.
Okay,
We felt that it's important for you all to have that concept plan, and
yes,
it's not just the staffing, but to understand how does that play into a concept plan for that new building.
okay,
You know what I mean?
okay,
We added that, so the total is 49.7.
okay, okay. And then additionally, I know you had mentioned, you said we are on the project from your group.
Yes.
Who is that exactly? I would assume is it yourself, but when
Yes.
you come into the market, who that all.
So there's going to be 3 of us. I'm the principal in charge of government operations and efficiency. So
Okay.
I'm going to be the project manager, and Kathy
Okay.
Rooney is my local government specialist. She's going to be working on it. She's the former county manager I mentioned earlier from Schenectady
Yes.
County. Has 30 years of experience running governments.
Okay,
Last 13 was running Schenectady through many of we had huge, as you know, superstorms and tropical
Sure.
storms and flooding. So she got Schenectady County through all that. She
Mhm.
recently retired. Now she's working with us. She did
Okay.
the George plan, the 2 Paulings plans. She's also completed not DPW, but court consolidation studies in Rhinebeck and Red Hook,
Okay,
and working with counties on shared service and organizational matters. And now working with Rensselaer County on figuring out a way to save $1 million through drug and pharmacy programs.
okay. Well, that's great. And I know that not everybody could be on here today, and seeing that we're all we're very impressed with your presentation. It might be a nice opportunity just to have a conversation
Sure.
with the additional team members to really, get to know one another a little bit more, especially, the collaboration and partnership that I continue to hear. So that would be great.
It can be either at your next village board meeting, or if you guys want to set up one-on-ones with Kathy. She's right now, she serves also on 2 board of directors as the
Okay.
director of finance. So she's running a board workshop as we speak.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. And thank you again for your time.
My pleasure. I find this fun. I like talking to people. I like working with governments. I left the state assembly and Senate staffing to work with local governments, because this is really where you help neighbors help neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't make substantive change through a press release. It comes down to neighbors working on policies and programs, and our DPW staff traditionally are our neighbors,
Yeah.
either in the village or nearby, and they're going on our roads. Their kids go to our schools. They're participating in our youth sports and recreation, and they take great pride in that as well. And when they see what they do during the week being used on the weekend, that's part of what they do every day. It gives them fulfillment.
Hey, Ben, this is Sam again. Interesting. I went to school up in Albany, and I lived up there for like a total about 10 years. So
Fantastic.
I'm very familiar with the area. So the question I have is just sort of like a follow-up to what one of John's questions was, just outlining some results for us, because, in some of the case study examples that you gave, not everybody decided to execute the plans that you had recommended. And this is a little bit different because this is all under us. We're not doing a shared service or anything, but if you could just give us a percentage on your results around, when you go in and execute an initiative, what's your success rate? If you can give us examples of that.
I can't give a success rate because I haven't tabulated the full number of recommendations that we've done in the last decade versus how many have gone forward. Implementation comes in various forms and levels. For the most part, administrations look at your recommendations, then they look at their budget, then they got hit with a 2% property tax cap. If you go backwards, you first got hit with the recession in 10, 11, and 12. Then you got hit with the tax cap, 14 through now. Now you have COVID. So some of the recommendations are slower to come through. Chemung County is the greatest success story. Their commissioner of highway is also the city of Elmira's commissioner of DPW. It's also the village of Horseheads and the town of Big Flats. So they kept adding each year on and on. When a vacancy occurred, like for example, town of Big Flats, Larry left to go to city of Corning as their DPW. The supervisor, instead of filling that position, hired the county to be that position and started assimilating the staff and resources right away. They've made that CUSHA, that centralized urban highway services area, their model and their pilot. And that was used in many studies, subsequent studies throughout the state based on that. For example, the village of Horseheads began working with the school district on sharing salt sheds. And instead of the village building a new one, they had it on the school. Plow routes changed and were optimized. The plow up, plow down concept in Ulster County came out, and they used that very successfully. Putnam County tried to do that, but the shared service money didn't come in for them. The concept was, why am I driving streets with the plow up versus the plow down and bill it back? The town of Bethlehem and Albany County swapped properties and swapped plow routes. That came out of their plan on management. We did the analysis of their organization staffing, and in there we realized that the town of Bethlehem jumps over Albany County Road, and Albany County jumps over town of Bethlehem roads. They sat there with 2 cups of coffee, a map, and a highlighter, and swapped, and had an intermunicipal agreement, and all of a sudden saved $7,000 a year just by working together. So organizational changes and best management practices are different. The BMPs are more successful, and in putting in task orders and job tracking, that comes out of most of the communities that we work in, is they realize, I really should know what my staff does every day and how I can change the workflow. Shared equipment or purchases happens in all the communities, except so if I haven't seen or spoke to the mayor or Anthony yet about any successes that came out of your rec plan. But in DPW, often the greatest strengths that come out of management and staffing is the coordination and communication with each other. And then understanding from the line level, MEO and laborers all the way up on the equipment, they get into a capital improvement program and become more proactive with their village or town boards. That's been successful, but I can't give you a percentage. I can just give you examples of how they're going forward. Also, by the way, what's changed a lot of what drives a lot of the decisions are the grants. So when you talk about equipment standardization or equipment optimization, and you say, well, I have a piece of equipment that's 20 years old already, and it's a vac truck, and I want to upgrade that to a vac truck sweeper. And you realize that there's a green infrastructure grant coming down or a LGE shared service grant, and you say, well, I don't use it 24/7, and I don't use it all year long. I'm going to share it with my next community over and get the grant to get it. That works. Up in Skodak, one of the things that came out of their review was that they didn't have their sewer outfalls mapped, their stormwater outfalls mapped. So they then got grants through WQIP, the Water Quality Improvement Program, to get mapping of their water outfalls. So part of our process is to identify those shortfalls or opportunities. So if you remember, I have that DNA slide. The grants go with the DNA, or part of what we do. So the greatest successes come where there's grant money. Hope that answers some of your question.
Yeah, those examples were great. Thank you.
I would just say, I think this has been a great discussion. Sandra, I thought your suggestion was a good one about trying to meet some of the other members of the team, and that might be something that we can arrange with one-on-ones or smaller groups of us to meet with your folks, especially if we can do it over the next couple of weeks. It would be helpful. Any last questions? Any last questions for this evening? Sorry. Okay. Well, Ben, I want to thank you so much we look forward to seeing everybody that we meet in Sleepy Hollow again, because we can't think of any place anybody else would rather be than here. So
I look forward
to seeing you in person sometime soon. And thank you for the presentation tonight.
Well, thank you all. And we really hope to have the opportunity to partner with you on this. It's an exciting opportunity. And it's an exciting project for you, but it's also exciting for us. So I look forward to getting Kathy on, meeting with you individually or collectively, and seeing if we can be of service in the next couple months.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks.
You, Ben. You too. Be well.
Bye-bye.
Okay, on to the more mundane. Our second discussion item in the work session this evening is the snow and ice agreement that we do every year. Mr. Giacchio had circulated among the members of the board before. The only thing I was highlighting, if I'm reading this correctly, the price that the state wants to give us went down from what we'd seen before based on their formula. Mr. Giacchio, you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate that we're doing the snow and ice agreement since we just talked about DPW for an hour. This is the state reimbursing us to take care of the streets during snowstorm. Route 9 and 448. We know there's a snowstorm coming this next 2 days. Yes, it came down just slightly, but it's much higher than it was several years back. So this is something we really need to do. We need to plow the streets, not wait for the state emergency services anyway. So doesn't cost us, dramatic amount of money, additional money. So I'm recommending that we continue with this.
And I think as we've discussed in years past, it's something we're going to do anyway. So we can not sign the agreement and not take the money and do the work, or we can do the work and sign the agreement and take the money. I would strongly urge us to do what we've done in the past, and that's sign it. And what I'd like to do is just put it on for passage when we move into our board meeting later on this evening. Anybody have any thoughts?
I'm in favor of it.
Okay, great. Well, with that, we will move into our board meeting. As I said at the beginning, this is a work session and a board meeting. And as is our tradition, we will begin our board meeting now, and we'll begin it with a Pledge of Allegiance. So please rise with me as we recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
America,
To the
and to the
republic,
republic for which it stands,
stands
one nation,
nation,
under God,
God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
And for all the doubters out there, yes, there really is a flag that we're all standing up and saluting. Okay, we've got the minutes of November 24th of this year that were distributed earlier. Any edits or amendments or changes in those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes.
For a second? There a second?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Or raise your, any abstentions? Okay, then the minutes have been approved unanimously, and we'll move on. Our next agenda item is we have a warrant that was distributed earlier as well. And if you have any questions on the warrant, please direct them to the treasurer, Sarah DiGiacomo. For the record, warrant is a staggering $2,290,198.78. So Sarah, there's some big ticket items in here that have pushed up this particular warrant. So if you could highlight those for everyone.
Yes, this was definitely a large warrant. The two largest items were the retirement annual contributions. For the police retirement, it was $959,968. And for the employee retirement, it was $663,485. We also had a workers' comp payment of $130,136.50.
Which left $8,700 for everything else. So
Luckily, this only happens once a year, so.
Any questions about any of those or about the items contained in the $8,700?
Yeah, I've got a quick question, Sarah. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that within the warrants, there's a fee for the company that manages our online payments.
Yes,
For the bills as well as property taxes.
yes.
So I'm just wondering if you can just give us an update on how popular that's become with our residents or people using it. Is it growing?
Oh my gosh. Yes, it's been amazing. One of those payments was just the setup fee, and that was just a one-time thing that we will never have to pay again. And then the second item is just a maintenance that we will be paying annually. And companies do two different things. You can either pay a maintenance, or you can pay a percentage based on the payments that you get. And I just find that this is definitely a more economical and efficient way, is just paying kind of a one-time annual fee. And it doesn't matter how much you collect. So I think it's definitely the most efficient. The company has been amazing and very responsive. And definitely during the pandemic, it's been very, very popular. We get payments every day, and especially during a collection time, it's been very popular. And there's only a $2 fee. It's an e-check fee. So there's no percentage. Again, if you use credit cards, a lot of times there's a 3% fee on the payment that you make. And just paying a $2 fee is also very economical for the residents. So it's been highly used, and we're very happy with it, and I think the residents are as well.
Great. Good commercial too.
It's been great. It really has been.
Are there comments or questions on the warrant? If not, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to move, adopt the warrant.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, none, and the warrant is approved.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. We will move on to mayoral announcements. Hey, top of the list, has got to be our numbers on the virus are still high compared to where we were in the summertime. So everybody, please be safe. It's I know, kind of lightening up at Phelps Hospital, and we just don't want to see anybody else end up there. So please do what you can to help us keep it in control. And tomorrow we have our first snow emergency of the year. It looks like a real nasty storm is coming our way. Depending on who you listen to late tomorrow or mid-afternoon, could be as much as a foot of snow or more. So we're declaring a snow emergency tomorrow, beginning at 6 p.m., which will be in effect until Friday at noon, in response to at least one request. We're going to try to make sure that we get some signage out there for folks. I know, particularly in my own neighborhood, on anybody who's on New Broadway. So it's like, which side of the street is the one we're not supposed to be on or not? So we'll get some signage out tomorrow to make sure that we keep that confusion down to a minimum. But snow emergency, pay attention to the signage and the rules, and be careful out there. On a happier note, the Sleepy Hollow Police Department and the members of the PBA will be doing their gift giveaway on Monday, December 21st from 2 to 4 p.m. in front of the firehouse at 28 Beekman. Please email sleepyhollowpba@gmail.com. So very easy to remember, sleepyhollowpba, one word, at gmail.com to register in advance. Because the PBA and the police officers would like to know how many people are going to be coming in advance so they can schedule properly and enforce social distancing. I want to say, hey, thanks a lot to Deanna Loha and Rich Murphy. Deanna is our community liaison. Rich is the regional director of AYSO. And Rich and his team along with Diana, for organizing a clothing and food drive this last weekend at Kingsland Point Park at the Bathhouse. It was very successful. I want to thank everyone who came out and donated, but especially the volunteers that helped make that happen. Also, another note, join us for the virtual tree lighting in Sleepy Hollow this Saturday from 5 to 7. You can log on, look for Rooney Tunes online. You can log on and and share the tree lighting and other activities with the rest of us and the rest of the village. And that address will be on the village website as well, which is sleepyhollowny.gov. Lastly, a note, our next board meeting will be Tuesday, January 12th at 7 p.m. That's our next regular board meeting. Will be a Tuesday, the 12th. And then on behalf of the board and everyone who works at the village, I want to wish everybody a happy Hanukkah, a Merry Christmas, safe and peaceful holidays, whatever it is that you celebrate. And as I like to say, if you're not celebrating anything this time of year, please have a peaceful and a safe time anyway. So from all of us to each of you. We will move on. And for those of you who insist on it, happy holidays, okay? We'll move on to public comments. Mr. Giacchio, do we have anybody who has requested to speak to the board?
No comments.
Comment, or you have no comment?
I don't have a comment, and the residents don't have comments either.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to resolutions then. Our first one is on the updated hazard mitigation plan. Would somebody like to take that one, please?
Sure, I'll do it.
Let me rephrase it. If you don't want to take it, just would somebody like to take it? If somebody would do it.
So resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow adopting the multi-hazard mitigation plan update. Whereas the Village of Sleepy Hollow, with the assistance of its consultant, Cash and Associates PC, has gathered information and updated the Village of Sleepy Hollow's multi-hazard mitigation plan. And whereas the Village of Sleepy Hollow multi-hazard mitigation plan has been prepared in accordance with the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000. And whereas the Village of Sleepy Hollow is a local unit of government that has afforded the citizens an opportunity to comment and provide input on the plan and the actions in the plan. And whereas the Village of Sleepy Hollow has reviewed the plan and affirms that the plan will be updated again in no less than every 5 years. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees, the Village of Sleepy Hollow adopts the updated multi-hazard mitigation plan as this jurisdiction's natural hazard mitigation plan and resolves to execute the actions in the plan. So moved.
Moved and seconded. I think the seconded from Deputy Mayor. You can get the next one, Denise.
Doesn't matter.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? The resolution is approved. We have one. Mr. Giacchio, do we have a formal resolution for the ice and snow agreement? And if
Yeah, I don't believe so. I would just say make a motion to adopt the attached snow and ice agreement.
Ms. McCarthy Tompkins?
There is a resolution there. It's attached to the worksheet. Did you hear me?
Well, I think if you
I
could.
don't see it.
If Paula, if you could read it for us, and then we'll have somebody else move since you can't.
Sure. If you can just give me about 12 seconds to find it.
All right, can somebody just move adopting the ice and snow agreement? Denise.
I move to the attached the attached snow and ice agreement.
Authorizing Mr. Giacchio
Authorizing
to sign it.
Yes, authorizing him to sign it.
Okay, great.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Just had it in the work session. Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed or abstentions? All right, and the resolution's approved.
I found it. Okay, sorry.
Brilliant
About
timing.
12 seconds.
Sorry.
We have
I
another.
move what she just found.
Sorry.
So we have another resolution on an action of the fire wardens. Could somebody please read that?
I'll read it. Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow approving the action of the Board of Fire Wardens. Whereas the Board of Fire Wardens of the Sleepy Hollow Fire Department at a recent meeting took the following actions, which I'll read. During a recent meeting of Sleepy Hollow Fire Department Board of Fire Wardens, 3 new members were accepted into the department. Victor Tolentino of Sleepy Hollow for active membership, Matthew Galliano of Briarcliff for active membership, Leslie Patino of Sleepy Hollow for active membership, and Dragon Jukic of Pleasantville for active membership. So moved.
Additionally,
Seconded.
an associate member,
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that one. I apologize. Additionally, associate member is Joseph Russo, moving to an active role. My apologies. Please follow the normal course of action for these individuals. Signed, Secretary William Ryan. So moved.
Seconded.
seconded. Any discussion?
It says
Of that.
that there are 3 new members, but it seems like there's more than 3.
Yeah, it looks like 4.
A bit of a typo or something.
Yeah, and Denise, you amend your
I
motion
amend
to,
what the motion to recognize 4 new members.
yeah,
Seconded.
okay, thank you. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, the resolution is approved. Welcome aboard, all of you, and thank you for stepping up and volunteering for our fire department. It's appreciated.
That was a tough one.
All right, we'll move on. Any old business or new business? I think under new-ish business, we'll be putting together a committee of the board to move forward on the DPW study. And I know Sandra Spiro is going to be at least one of the people on that. Thank you for volunteering.
Absolutely.
And we'll add a couple more folks as well as we look at the presentations and determine if we need to see more proposals or if we're going to move forward with one of these.
I'll volunteer to do that as well.
Great. And also, Mayor, these were the 3 that we had on the docket that we identified, just so you know. I don't know if Anthony had any others, but we felt that we wanted a nice cross-section of consultants, and that was the recommendation that he had sent out earlier to the board when we first started the process.
For my own 2 cents worth, I think we can find somebody in this group that would do what we're looking for.
Absolutely. I agree too.
Okay, so Glenn and Sandra will be working on this. If anybody else wants to jump in, we can do that. But I know that the 2 of you can certainly handle that. Any other new business or old business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would just like to remind people, board members and residents, for those who are unaware, our own Chickalella's 100th birthday is coming up on January 1st. So our recreation department is trying to gather birthday wishes for him virtually through an app called VidHug. It's like a video hug. The link should be, I know it's been out on Facebook and on our news channels. Paul, do you happen to know if it's on our website?
It's not on our website.
Do you think we could get the link there?
I'm sorry?
Do you think we could get the link posted there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so people, literally, you just click the link and it brings you to an app where you can just record yourself, selfie, or have someone record you, and you make a birthday wish, 10, 15, 20 seconds, and it uploads automatically to this website, and they consolidate them all and put them together and make a nice birthday movie of everybody's wishes. And I think there's about 5 days left in order to upload your video. So if any of the residents would like to do that to wish him a 100th birthday, happy 100th birthday. And if any of the trustees and the staff would like to do it, that'd be great.
Thank you. That's important to note.
We should, I'm sorry to interrupt. We should probably mention that we're going to be doing some special things on his birthday on January 1st, including fireworks. So we don't have a board meeting until then. So I wanted to remind the residents or let them know.
For honest to God, real fireworks like the 4th of July. It's not the board members squabbling. So it should be a lot of fun, and for an incredibly deserving person. So, okay, any communications, Ms. McCarthy-Tompkins? No, okay. Then we'll move on to public comments. Mr. Giaccio, we have anybody?
There are no public comments tonight.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
We are adjourned. Be well, be safe. Take care tomorrow afternoon and Thursday. We'll see you all
holidays,
later.
everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy
Bye.
holidays, guys.
Good night.
Merry
Happy
Christmas,
holidays.
everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.